Hello students, and welcome back to another episode of Mr. Hargrove's math class, where today we're going to be discussing the topic of the area of common shapes. Now this lesson is the beginning of what we're going to transition to, which is going to be composite area. But in order to understand composite area, you really have to have a thorough understanding of how to find the area of just the common shapes that you learned about in elementary, 6th grade, and things like that. So please make sure that you have pencil, paper, calculator, and that you're ready to take notes and get started. The learning target for today reads as such: we will review and extend student knowledge of using the area formulas of various shapes to determine the area of these figures. So that is our learning target for today. We're just going to start very basic. And this is what you're going to be using this year on not only in this unit and the next unit and pretty much all of 7th grade math, but this is going to be a very useful tool for you on the STAR test. So all of these formulas, you need to be very much familiar with them. Obviously the circumference formula, we just finished discussing area and circumference, but you also need to understand how to find the area of various shapes, and those shapes are listed there on the formula chart. So the keys to success. When solving problems that have formulas, always write the formula first. You've heard me say that before, and I'm going to continue to say it. Anytime you're solving a problem and it has a formula, always write the formula. Then use the formula to guide your math, because that's what the formula is supposed to do. It's telling you exactly what math you're supposed to be doing. Students run into big mistakes when they don't write the formula. So always write the formula. Then keep your work organized so that you can understand it. This will also help you with identifying mistakes, which are going to happen. Even as a math teacher, I sometimes make mistakes if I'm going too fast. But the beautiful thing about writing the formula and keeping your work organized, after you go back and look over your work, you'll be able to identify your mistakes if you write the formula, follow the formula, and keep your work organized. So those are very critical points to be successful in this unit. So I told you we're starting simple today. We're starting with just the area of common shapes, but we're going to move to composite area. Composite area is our next topic, which involves finding the area of figures like the one below. Now, when you understand how to find the area of basic shapes, then you can look at this figure and mentally kind of break it down into shapes that you know and recognize, find the area of those shapes separately, add them all together, and you found the area of that whole figure. So we're not going to do that today, but that's what we're moving to. So today we're going to start simple. We're going to start with a figure like this, which is a figure you learned back in elementary, the rectangle. And you'll notice the rectangle has a very simple formula. Area equals base times height. Another way that you may see that is area equals length times width. Same thing. And we notice that the 10 and the 12 are the two units of measure that we need, and we multiply them together, and that's simply going to be 120 square centimeters of area. So that means that that's how much space is inside of that rectangle. So the area formula for a rectangle is very simple, so we're not going to spend a lot of time there. As we transition, we move to a square. You'll notice a square and a rectangle pretty much the same. They have the exact same formula. In fact, a square is a rectangle. It's just a rectangle that has all equal sides, which is a special rectangle that we call a square. So it has the same formula: area equals base times height, or area equals length times width. 10 times 10 gives us 100 square centimeters, which means that's how much can fit inside of that square. Now, key thing to remember: anytime you need to find the height of a figure, height is always going to be straight. At this level of math, your height is not going to be slanted. We'll leave that for your higher levels of math. So for middle school math, your height is always going to be straight, never slanted. And that's important here, because when you look at a figure like the triangle, The formula, you'll see it there, area equals 1/2 base times height. And don't worry, you're not going to have to memorize these formulas. Like I mentioned, they're on the formula chart. You'll have that formula chart. Today, we're just showing you how to use the formula. 1/2 base times height. So the base of the triangle is 14 centimeters. So that's going to be where I put my 14. The height of the triangle is the one that's straight up. It's the 13. Sometimes students are tempted to use the 16 as the height, but remember, that's slanted, so that is not the height. Height, you measure up and down. So it's 1/2 base times height. Another way you can write this formula and get the same answer is if I take the base times the height and I divide it by 2. Multiplying by 1/2 is the same as dividing by 2. Either way, they're going to give you half. So that is all we do. So I can take half of 14, multiplying 1/2 times 14 is the same thing as dividing 14 by 2, which gives me 7. 7 times 13, that gives me 91 square centimeters. That is the area of the triangle. And remember, you can use this as well. This formula has been helpful to a lot of students. Just remember, anytime you see half, that's the same thing as dividing by 2, and that'll get you the same answer. So just go step by step. Step by step. 1/2 times 14 is the same thing as 14 divided by 2. That's how we got the 7. 13, we brought it straight down, 91 square centimeters. Always use the formula. And you'll notice for every one of these problems, I'm going to write the formula first. That's what you always want to do. Now we move to the parallelogram. The parallelogram has the same formula as the rectangle. It's area equals base times height. This is called a parallelogram because it has 2 sets of parallel lines. So these lines run this way parallel, they never intersect. These lines run this way parallel, they never intersect. The height, remember, is going to be straight. So when you do base times height here, it's important to look. Your base is 8. Your height is not the 11. A lot of times people make the mistake of using the 11, but remember, height is always straight. So it's 8 times the height of 6, which gives me 48 square centimeters. Next figure we move to is the trapezoid. Now the trapezoid is a unique figure because if you look at the formula here, it actually has 2 bases that are different sizes. So anytime you see a figure like this, where it has the bottom part is not the same size as the top, you're most likely looking at a trapezoid, okay? So the trapezoid has the formula that has the most work for you to do, but it's not very difficult if you write the formula and then just plug in the numbers and go from there. So base 1 is 14, base 2 is 10. Doesn't matter if you flip them and you put the 10 first and the 14 next, it doesn't matter. The height is not the 11 because it's slanted. It's going to be the one that's straight up and down, which is 8. The 1/2, that's just part of the formula. And then look at what we do. We just follow our order of operations, which tell us to take care of what's in parentheses. First, 14 plus 10 gives me 24. Bring down what's left. 1/2 times 24 is the same thing as 24 divided by 2. So it's just, you're asking yourself, what's half of 24? It's 12. 12 times 8 gives me 96 square centimeters, and I'm done. If you follow the formula and go step by step, this is straightforward. Now, if I had to try to find the area of this and I didn't write a formula and I tried to do it all in my head, that's when it gets challenging. But we don't want to do any math in our head, okay? Just follow the formula. Write the formula, fill in the numbers, and then just go step by step and you'll land on the answer. That's what's going to happen. Now, this is a figure that we're familiar with because we just finished talking about it in depth, the circle. How do you find the area of a circle? Well, that's area equals pi times radius squared. You will notice here that they gave you the diameter, the distance all the way across. To find the circle, radius, the radius is half of the diameter. So you need to just remember this. My diameter equals 8. Radius equals diameter divided by 2. So radius equals 8 over 2, which equals 4. So my radius is 4. Now you'll notice that we use 3 for pi here, which you can do and you should do. This is a good way to estimate and get close enough to the answer to get the actual answer. So that's a tool that I encourage you to use, especially when you're solving by hand. A lot of times when you're trying to do 3.14 times 4 squared, that definitely is a lot more work than just using 3. And 3 is close enough to 3.14 that, again, if you do it this way, you'll get so close to the answer, if it's multiple choice, that you'll know which answer to choose. So we're just estimating here, using 3 for pi. Remember, 4 squared is not 4 times 2, it's 4 times 4. 4 times 4 gives me 16. I use 3 as the estimate for pi, and that gives me approximately 48 square centimeters. Again, for this lesson, we're going to use 3 for pi, because knowing how to estimate is a very important tool. So we talked about the full circle, and now we're going to look at the semicircle or the half circle, which, as you guessed, in order to find the area of half a circle, you just divide it by 2. You write the formula for a full circle, and then you divide it by 2 because it's only half of the circle, and you follow the same cues. This 12 is the diameter. So the diameter of this half circle is 8, which means the radius is going to be 8 divided by 2. I'm sorry, mistake there. The diameter is 12. So the radius is going to be 12 divided by 2, which is 6. The last one had 8, so that's what had me stuck on 8. But yeah, diameter is 12, radius is half of that, which is 6. And I'm just going to plug that in here. 6 squared is 6 times 6. And we're using 3 for pi. 3 times 36, 108. 108 divided by 2, 54 square centimeters for the half circle. And now we're going to move to a quarter circle. And a quarter circle is literally 1/4 of a full circle, which is why we divide it by 4. So this is the formula. Area equals pi r squared over 4. The radius is 7. Remember, the radius is going to be the distance from the center to the edge. And if I were to dot out what this full circle would look like, it would look something like that. Okay, that's not exactly, but it would look something like that. So the radius is going to be 7. 7 times 7 is 49. We're using 3 for pi. 147 divided by 4 gives me 36.75 square centimeters. So as you can see, very important when you're dealing with finding the area of shapes like this, that you take your time, don't rush through it, let the formula guide you, and you'll be in good shape. So I want to thank you for your attention, and I welcome you back to the next edition of Mr. Hargrove's Math Class.